Midwestern Movie Reviewer here with another movie review. I recently saw the movie Queer in theaters. This movie I was really looking forward to. It has Daniel Craig, and he's playing this American expatriate who is living in Mexico City in about 1950s. He's living as a lonely man, kind of strolling the streets looking for a young companion. It was really interesting to me. The trailer was extremely interesting. I'll play a clip and then we'll kind of talk about what it was about. And just so you know, this is going to be a spoiler review. I usually don't do spoiler reviews, but with this one, it gets pretty weird, and I can't really talk about it unless I give some spoilers. So, if you haven't seen it yet and you plan to, and you don't want those spoilers, come back later after you see it and see if your opinion was the same as mine on this. Otherwise, here's a little trailer. This movie was great. Some of the stars of this movie, Queer, was Daniel Craig and Jason Schwartzman, which his character was crazy, and Daniel Craig's love interest, his name was Drew Starkey. Daniel Craig plays a character named Lee. Drew Starkey plays Allerton. And those are the main love interests. This is a romantic drama. It's about 2 hours and 15 minutes long. And originally, when it showed at Cannes, it was 3 hours long. They did a little bit more of a cut. And so maybe there will be a director's cut later on, too. See what that additional 1 hour worth of this movie had. It'd be interesting to see. You would know Daniel Craig from the James Bond movies. He was in several of those. And Drew Starkey, I wasn't familiar with him. He's been in a few TV shows. He was in The Outer Banks. He was in The Other Zoe, and he was in a TV series Scream. I've seen some of that stuff, but I don't remember seeing him. So I enjoyed him a lot in this movie. It was directed by Luca Guadagnino. And you would know him from Challengers and Call Me By Your Name. And he was fantastic as a director of this. The things I loved about this film, it was a period piece taking place in the 1950s. So you had that high-waisted gentleman's slacks, and you have hats and, linens and cotton material that's real flowy. I love that style of fashion. That was intriguing to me, and I loved watching that on screen. The Mexico scenery, they did a great job bringing that era to life in Mexico. The scenery was beautiful. They also go to South America, and you have a jungle. Just the scenery was great. I loved it. Also, Daniel Craig's character, he plays a guy who is very complex. He's not really likable. He's kind of, he's quirky. He's strange, and like you can feel his longing. Like he wants to have a connection, intimate connection with someone so badly. That pairing was not great. It was like, okay, whatever. It's kind of hot, but a little bit not, I don't know. It wasn't very fulfilling, I think, for him even. And then you see this character Allerton, played by Drew Starkey. Sparks fly immediately. They're immediately attracted to each other. But Allerton is not fully out. He's not sure that he is ready to be known as queer. But Lee, Daniel Craig's character, is. So he's trying to find out, is he queer or not? Is he wanting to hook up with me? What's going on? And so that part of it was really interesting. I really enjoyed that willy won't thing going on. And this was done in 3 acts. So that first act was Daniel Craig out looking for somebody, running into Allerton, and trying to get that going. So then the second act, I loved the chemistry between Daniel Craig and, or I'll say Lee and Allerton. Sexy, hot. It was, woo, it was on fire. Very, very hot. So if you're a person who is into queer movies and you love something really sexy, this movie's for you. Do not bring your children because it is a hard R when it comes to that. But, whew, very steamy. Very great chemistry. The character played by Daniel Craig, Lee, was fully fleshed out. You got to see his vulnerability, his complexity, his just, you saw that he's an alcoholic. He's also a heroin addict. And, so he's a junkie and he's so complex. He's got good and bad features to him. And he just wants somebody to connect with so badly, And he really does seem to fall in love with Allerton. So you can really feel for his character because of how complex he is. He's not just good, just bad, just this or that. He is such a fully fleshed out character. Now, Allerton is just basically a hot kind of young guy who's kind of aloof and not sure of his sexuality. So he's not as fully fleshed as Lee, but still I enjoyed his character. The acting's fantastic. I really, really enjoyed it. Jason Schwartzman, he plays a secondary character in this. He's really weird and funny and like chubby and just interesting. Not like how you usually see Jason Schwartzman, but he does a great job. I enjoyed the little humor that he brought to this movie. The soundtrack of this movie was great. I love the modern music that they used. There was some Prince in this. There was Nirvana and some other groups. And I love like a period piece that has modern music. For some reason, that's very attractive to me. I enjoyed the soundtrack. And even just the sounds that they used in various places was very visceral. I really enjoyed the sounds and the sound editing that they use for this film. Great. So during the second act of this, Lee is trying to hold on to Allerton. He got him. They had their sexual relationship that was so spicy and hot, but Allerton is not fully feeling Lee. So Lee is desperate to keep him. So he's like, I'll be your sugar daddy, I'll buy you things. You don't have to work. You can just be around me 24/7. And that is not appealing to Allerton. Well, Lee thinks of this. Hey, there's this Yage, YAGE plant in South America that is known to give a person telepathic abilities. Let's go down there and get that and try that out. What this had to do with this story, I don't know. It was so weird. But they go to South America together. They do this little excursion. Allerton was a little bit reluctant to do this, but he goes. On this trip, Lee goes into withdrawal from his junkiness. And oh my goodness, it was I was like, what is happening? Is he getting sick? And then I'm like, oh yeah, he didn't get to do his heroin. By the way, Luca Guadagnino, the director, had them do this really long scene of making the heroin, cooking the heroin, wrapping the thing, like too long. There was a few moments in this movie where they did something that took too long. Like, why did you have him do this? Why didn't you just have him, just show him wrapping the thing and injecting himself? That's all we care about. We don't want to see him cooking the spoon and doing all this stuff and drawing the heroin. Too much time spent on stuff. And if maybe that's the 60 minutes that they cut out was additional scenes where he was opening the refrigerator, looking inside. Oh, I need to buy some groceries. making a grocery list. There was too much mundane stuff that they left in that I'm like, what did you cut out? So I don't know. Many scenes of Lee staring at Allerton for a minute and a half, just staring. It's like, dude, take a picture. That's too long of staring. It makes people uncomfortable. And the audience just sitting there waiting, going, okay, now I'm watching a man just laying in bed in the fetal position. Too many weird scenes like that. Let's fast forward. They go to South America together. They try this drug. That psychedelic drug scene of them trying this drug was very weird, number one. Number two, I couldn't tell if they had telepathic abilities, but it sure did look like they got into each other's skin, like the weird CGI they did with that. It was so weird. And it was, once again, too long. They do this drug, they come out of it, and the woman who gave it to them was like super impressed. She's like, y'all need to stay and take more of this drug so I can study you. And they're like, okay. Next thing, they're leaving. They don't actually try it anymore. It's just, bam, we're going to try it again. And then Lee looks at Allerton. They're leaving through the jungle. He looks away, he looks back, he's gone. He just disappeared in the jungle. And you never see him in the movie again. So you have no idea what just happened. What was that? He just disappeared. Is this part of the drug? Is it, you're just left right at that moment going, what? And then the next thing you see is Lee, Daniel Craig's character, jumping on a beach, like those videos where you see where people are just standing there and they jump and they're wearing a different outfit all of a sudden, like that. He jumps, he's wearing a suit, he's standing on the beach, and they put a thing that says 2 years later. 2 years later, what happened to Allerton? What happened in the jungle? Are they telepathic now because they took the drug, or what happened? You never find out. I did not love that. So after that, Daniel Craig kind of wandering around town again, kind of trying to see if maybe Allerton's around. So he goes back to this bar that they used to hang out in, and there's Jason Schwartzman. And Jason Schwartzman's like, hey, I heard that Allerton went back to South America with a captain of the army or something to take him to maybe find the drug or whatever. Lee's like, oh, really? Okay. They do a little bit of chit chat. And the next thing you see, Daniel Craig goes to, I keep calling him Daniel Craig. Lee goes to his hotel room that they used to stay at. He, all of a sudden, he goes to sleep. He has a dream. And it's all weird and psychedelic and bizarre. He's huge, looking into what looks like a dollhouse hotel at himself in there, walking around. And you're like, what? What is happening? What is this? You don't know. You don't know what this is. He's dreaming. He dreams that he sees Allerton. So when I say you don't see Allerton again, I mean you don't see the real Allerton. This is just him dreaming of him. He ends up shooting this guy in the head, kills him, bends over, tries to, I don't know what, help him after he's already killed him. And then that body disappears. He looks around, everything in the room disappears, the bed, everything disappears. And then he's just standing there. Okay, so then he wakes up and he's 95 years old or something. So I'm like, what? So now Daniel Craig's character Lee is 95 years old. He goes, lays down in a bed, and he imagines that Allerton is spooning with them. And you see their feet intermingling. And like that's on the movie poster. And that's another scene that they did when he was having his junkie withdrawals. They did the spooning, they showed the feet. I guess the feet intermingled is a metaphor for this movie. So he imagines that as he dies. And then you see stars, and that's the end. So like the last act of the movie makes absolutely no sense at all. And isn't that great? You're just like, okay, huh, what? The very first part of the movie is great. It's so enrapturing. It's beautiful. It's sexy. It's great acting. You're in it. You're with it. And then I'm like, what? I don't know. So if you see this movie, please comment and tell me, and also like and subscribe. But please tell me, what was the second and third act about? What was that? Um, all in all, because of the beginning of the movie, I did love it. I left the movie thinking about it and would love to see that again. Um, it was so spicy, but you know, if that's not your bag, then you don't want to see this. But if you do like queer material, queer movies, this movie, Love Lies Bleeding, was another one. And Challengers were great queer movies for 2024. So check those out. Queer, Love Lies Bleeding, Challenger. And one more. I saw the TV Glow. I don't really have a golden nugget for this one. Um, it didn't release in a lot of theaters, so by the time I edit this and release this video, it's already gonna be gone. Like when I was trying to find this movie, in most theaters, it was only playing at 11 p.m. and it's 2 hours long. So I wouldn't get out of that theater till like 1:30 in the morning and then get home at 2 o'clock in the morning. What? I had to go to AMC. They had many, many showings of this. And so I was able to go at a decent time in the middle of the day and really enjoy it. But I think it's going to be gone, like I said. I think this was the last weekend. I have read that it's supposed to be streaming on Max. So if you're interested in seeing it, you can still stream it from your own home, probably pretty soon. Look for that. Midwestern Movie Reviewer out.